eyes on the top drivers and manufacturers in the business. North America's premier street stock championship. It's the Motorola Cup. Welcome to Exhibition Place in Toronto for round number 6. I'm Jim Martin along with Tom Natchew.
On the pole for the second of 2 races here at Exhibition Place, young Devin Powell. What a story he's been all the way from Daytona. This team has not won a race until yesterday in the first of the 2 rounds when Doug Goad won. Devin Powell, his opportunity to make up a 30-point deficit with the win here. You can see Scotty Maxwell and John Heinrichs splitting those 2 drivers.
Hey, things have been anything but predictable in the first 5.5 rounds of the Motorola Cup, starting way back in January at the Cathedral of Speed Daytona International Raceway.
Ford had an unbelievable weekend, losing 14 engines over the course of the weekend. However, Joe Aqualante's Phoenix American Motorsport team, the 1997 American Championships, were dominant here at Daytona, taking the pole position, and after a 2-hour battle, taking the win as well.
Round 2 in Florida 2, this time Homestead, where Powell Motorsports, the 11 car, Devin Powell and Doug Goad, were dominant in the race, but late in the contest, a brake failure sent Doug Goad into the stones, and that meant an unscheduled pit stop to fix the brakes with victory that far away.
But the Powell Motorsport team comes through. They fix the brakes, get him out for 3rd place. Terry Borcheller inherits the lead along with his co-driver, Andy Pilgrim.
Now, Montreal, again, a different story one more time. The first race in Canada, the first of 2 short sprint races on the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Scott Maxwell in the Multimatic Ford Mustang, the 4.6-liter motor, dominating from start to finish. 3 different driver combinations, 3 different manufacturers taking the honors in the first 3 rounds.
Race 2 was the Richard Spinard show, starting last and finishing first, primarily due to Scotty Maxwell's problem with the clutch in the very last lap of the race.
Hey, Scott Maxwell again, flawless in the Mustang up until that point, and with less than a lap to go. Richard Spinard went by, taking the checkered flag, and a big win for Fiorano Motorsport.
On to Mid-Ohio in round 4. The weather, a big factor here. The changing conditions and waterlogged track proving to be a handful for even the most experienced drivers. Phoenix American Motorsport duo of Stu Hainer and John Heinrichs both have big off-track excursions, the most costly one. Near the end of the races, Heinrichs spins under pressure from a hard-charging Scott Maxwell. The Ford Mustang and the Multimatic Motorsports team taking the win, guessing right on tires. Jason Priestley, the co-driver, his first ever professional win.
In Toronto, Doug Goad and John Heinrichs scored identical, like down to 1/1000th of a second in qualifying. Really amazing when you think about it, and that's the way it was all weekend long. Door handle to door handle, and in race number 1, it was Doug Goad who came out on top, taking the checkered flag and the lead in the overall standings. The yellow Pontiac a little better under braking late in the race. Cooling probably being the difference here.
Once again, the Powell team comes into effect here, giving Doug Goad his first win and the championship lead.
So here we are for round number 2 on the starting grid. Beside Devin Powell, who's really looking for a win to tie his teammate atop the point standings, in the 45 Ford Mustang, Greg Wilkins will start on the outside of the first row. Pretty fair job in qualifying. The 45 car is the modular engine, the 4.6-liter overhead cam Ford motor.
Jocelyn Hebert in car number 89, a Camaro, sitting 3rd on the grid. Jocelyn Hebert has had a great season so far.
Pretty car, the 47 Zippo Ford Mustang of Gary Smith is next in the field, 4th quickest in the qualifying. He's pretty much ready for the show and looks pretty relaxed, as a matter of fact.
The number 26 car of Terry McDonald-Cadieux has a great showing in qualifying. Terry really wants to do well in front of her home fans.
Another of the Zippo Ford Mustangs, Bernardo Sanduguerra from Portugal in the Zippo number 17 Ford Mustang.
All right, well, the big question is, where's Scotty Maxwell? 11th on the grid, electing to start in the 5.8-liter car.
We'll be back, and hopefully we'll discover why Scott Maxwell has decided to start in the 6th row of the field as opposed to the 2nd starting position.
Today's program brought to you by Motorola. Take off and take your world along for the ride.
And by Derringer, International Freight Forwarders, Customs Brokers, Warehousing and Distribution, your partner for complete logistics solutions.
And by Sunoco Ethanol Enhanced Ultra 94 Gasoline, the gasoline that powers the Motorola Cup.
We'll be back with race number 2 of the Toronto round of the Motorola Cup right after this. Welcome back to Exhibition Place in Toronto for round number 2 of the Motorola Cup here. Coming out of the final corner, the front couple of rows look to be in great shape as they look for the green flag.
The weather is cool. It's threatening to rain, and Devin Powell gets a champion start. This go-kart racer really knows how to start a race. Greg Wilkins draws up alongside momentarily, but elects to tuck in behind.
And
Bam!
tags him into corner number 1 more than once, as a matter of fact. There's all sorts of people trading paint through there. The 45, and that's Jocelyn Hebert in the yellow Chevrolet Camaro, as Jocelyn touches the wall on the inside of turn number 2. Boy, these guys must be really tight for the start today.
From on board Terry McDonald-Cadew's car, you see the kind of chaos it takes here in turn number 1 at Molson Indy. Scott Maxwell, you can see him with his headlights on, starting from the 11th position, working up along the left side of the track. Jim, he's got nowhere to go.
He's got nowhere to go, and Devlin Powell already has himself about a 5-car lead. 4 abreast. They try to get through turn number 3 here, probably the tightest of the corners, and there's more exchanges going on back here. This is a very tight racetrack in places, and it really hasn't seemed to slow anybody down. If these guys think that perhaps, you know, they've been told by their crew chiefs, no doubt, this is an endurance race. There's lots of time here. Everybody has forgotten that on lap number 1 today.
The red mist. Now, Devin Powell pulling out a lead. Greg Wilkins slightly demoralized at this point, watching Powell drive away. Now, we'll get a look at the number 11 car and analyze the way that car is moving around the track. You can see early in the going, Devin Powell is putting that car exactly where it needs to be, clipping every apex, and you can see the setup on that car relatively soft as compared to the Mustangs.
Actually, Greg Wilkins looked to be just as quick coming down the straightaway, but he may have lost a little bit of momentum with that touch and go maneuver going into turn number 1 there. He's lost the turn signal, and hopefully he won't need it very much. Greg Wilkins runs in 2nd spot as we ride along with Devin Powell into turn number 1. By the Princess Gates again. Devin clips the apex and again is trying to make sure he runs a nice, smooth race today. There's lots of time left, and he's got to make sure he's not only got tires, but brakes left at the end of this one. There's big, long straightaways and great, big, huge braking areas, like at the end of this Lakeshore Boulevard here in Toronto.
Well, at 150 miles an hour, this LS1 engine has always been a dark horse for the Powell Motorsports team. By this point in the season, they're more comfortable with the engine. Their attention draws more to chassis setup and brakes, and that was the difference in the round previous to this one here in Toronto.
And we watch a bunch of the Ford Mustangs as they run nose to tail through turn number 3. A little bit more action, as it looks as though Terry McDonald-Cadew's got a flat tire. May have tagged a piece of the concrete, and it was Bernardo Saniguera in one of the Zippo Ford Mustangs that tagged the back quarter panel of her car coming through that corner as well, and he's got a whole bunch of sheet metal damage.
Well, Bernardo Saniguera really didn't have any fault in that situation. Didn't expect Terry to touch the brakes. I guess she was trying to save the car. And look at that sheet metal hanging off the car. What do you do, Jim Martin? You go into the pits, or do you just rub it off on the wall?
Well, he may not know there's that much sheet metal hanging off the side of it. Let's get another look. Terry comes through the corner slow and gets tagged big time from the back corner. And she's not very happy about it. You can hear whether she's yelling at Bernardo or telling the crew that she needs another tire. We're not sure. Nonetheless, Terry brings the 26 Goodwrench Firebird in along pit lane, and they bolt on a new wheel.
All right, well, this is not in the cards for a 45-minute endurance race or a sprint race, whatever you want to call it. However, the crew get her on her way. Back to the 11 car, Devin Powell. That is the interval between P1 and P2. Greg Wilkins doing a fine job just keeping it right there. Looking back through the field, more Mustangs, but which one is Scotty Maxwell? There is Scotty Maxwell. Worked his way up some, but he's got to work his way up a little more to get in touch with Devin Powell, including 2 teammates.
Exactly. He's got a couple teammates to go through. Bernardo decides to bring the Zippo Ford Mustang in along pit lane, as the problem now is, how do you get a fender off a car in a big hurry? And they've really got a challenge on their hands from the look of things.
Well, jumping up and down it was one possible solution. There is Greg Wilkins. In behind him, Jocelyn Hebert in the number 89 car.
Hey, Jason Priestley's doing a real good job today, and here comes Scott Maxwell, the 0 car, right in behind him now.
Well, you can tell by John Powell's attire that the rain is starting to come down as he and Dan Van Alken begin to discuss splits between the 45 car. In this car, car number 11, driver Devin Powell.
Devin Powell doing a great job behind the wheel of that car. And from the look of the setup, as we get a long shot at it from time to time, we get a look at the nose of the car. There's a little bit more, perhaps, body roll, as you'd mentioned earlier on, than some of the other machines out on the racetrack. It seems to be set up fairly soft for what is basically a street circuit here in Toronto. The road maybe not quite as smooth as some of the genuine racetracks that we've been to in the past. Running in 2nd spot, Greg Wilkins, the 45 Ford Mustang. Maybe a little bit of a contrast in setup, as it appears as though the car's a little bit stiffer. And, well, from the way things are going so far, the soft setup is a little faster.
Well, speaking of soft, there's a left front tire that's gone awfully soft to begin to tear away the bodywork. Terry McDonald-Cadeu, her home race, not the kind of result that she was expecting or desired. She climbs out of that car rather ignominious.
Hey, she's had a tough race as her husband comes over and and gives her a little consolation. She really gave it a good go. 2 flat tires, obviously some contact on both sides of the racetrack. Watching Devin Powell now go down that big, long straightaway, Lakeshore Boulevard in Toronto. And at the other side of the circuit, his teammate has used one of the escape roads.
Paul Duckworth, his co-driver, Peter Lockhart, a great Canadian champion, just ran off the end of the back straightaway. Evidently, the conditions or perhaps his brakes have given up. However, Paul Duckworth back on, no harm, no foul, as we see him come back onto the main straightaway here at Exhibition Place.
As we get another look at it, Paul comes steaming into the corner, and it looks as though he's just overheated the brakes. Suddenly, the brake fluid boils. It'll slow the car down, but not enough to actually negotiate the corner. He makes use of that escape road, and he's doing the same thing in corner number 1. The brakes have the overheated brakes still won't slow him down for that corner.
We get an onboard camera look from Paul Duckworth's car. You can see that he thinks about trying to make turn 1, then goes for the escape road. Hopefully, he's going to make that, but no, bam!
And on that note, we'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to the Exhibition Place round of the Motorola Cup. Devin Powell is our race leader, being chased now by Scott Maxwell. And wow, Devin with a big slide out of the corner. That little bit of rain is making things real treacherous out there, and Devin's still doing a tremendous job behind the wheel of the 11 Pontiac as he tries to hold off Scotty Maxwell, who's been able to make his way through the field and, as a matter of fact, past Greg Wilkins in that 45 car, his teammate.
Well, that's the whole story, and here's how it actually happened. Scott Maxwell, down in the famous turn 1 here at Exhibition Place, just goes down the inside. You got to think that Greg Wilkins was saying, hey, teammate, you go ahead, you see if you can reel in that number 11 car.
And he is reeling him in ever so slightly, as they've got a back marker, the Oldsmobile Achieva of Ed Magner, just in front of them there. However, Scott Maxwell, the 0 car, coming from way back in 11th place on the grid, has made his way all the way up to 2nd spot. The touring class car gets out of his way, and their compact class, Oldsmobile rather, gets out of his way, and Scott Maxwell is again only a straightaway away from that first position. Now, whether he can catch him or pass him is going to be the tough one.
Now, there's lots of yellow flags down there at the end of the straightaway, and also a red and yellow stripe flag, which means that there's some type of debris or slippery surface down as we wind this race down to the final couple of laps.
As we watch the windshield wipers come on, in particular on Scott Maxwell's car, things are getting a little bit slippery out on the race circuit as we ride along with Devin.
You know, Devin is so cool. Remember, this kid is 21 years old, but driving like a veteran. Knows Scotty Maxwell is right there, but keeping his concentration right on the road in front of him and responding every time Scotty puts in a fast lap.
1 lap to go for Devin Powell. All he has to do is try to keep the car out in front of Scott Maxwell, who, by his own admission after that race in Mid-Ohio, is a bit of a master in the wet.
Yeah, Scotty Maxwell can definitely drive a car in the wet, and this car he felt was more ideal, which is why he started way back 5 rows behind Devin Powell. He's arrived at the back door. Scotty Maxwell would say later, I might have been able to catch him, but there's no way I think I could pass him in the last lap.
Hey, Scott Maxwell with a 5.8 liter Ford Mustang Cobra R down the back straightaway. Again, he's got the sport class BMW now to deal with, and as Devin has to deal with a compact class Mazda Miata coming into turn number 3, the Mazda, rather than move to the outside like you think he might, holds him up just a little bit, giving Scott the chance, perhaps, to catch him on this final lap.
Well, the whole thing is to stay cool, and Devin Powell has done just that. Managed the Miata, and now he's got his eyes out front, not paying much attention at all to Scotty Maxwell. Now there's Stephen Earle. He's coming from 14th. In 4th place now in that beautiful little Ferrari.
And just behind him, we've got the 89 at Jocelyn Hebert and Greg Wilkins, who's doing a pretty fair job today. Looks like he's in for a podium finish, too.
Absolutely. So Stephen Earle chasing Greg Wilkins for P3. We'll see how that one gets resolved. Now we have the number 11 car, the Powell Motorsports Pontiac Firebird, with this revolutionary new LS1 engine. The development on this team has been phenomenal. Not only have they made the engine work for them, but the chassis setup, brakes, the car's been flawless. Now Doug Gode's got a win. It looks like Devin Powell will take his first win of the season and match Doug Gode point for point as we continue the Motorola Cup Championship.
2nd place goes to Scott Maxwell, who shuts the lights off. He had the headlights on there just to see whether he could rattle Devin a little bit. It didn't work. Here comes 3rd place, Greg Wilkins now through the final couple of corners at Exhibition Place as we see the CN Tower in the background. Greg Wilkins has a bit of a battle on his hands, as well as Stephen Earle, and that Ferrari 348 has been chasing him for the last couple of laps. But Greg Wilkins holds on and takes 3rd place in the checkered flag in Toronto.
2 wins in a row for the Powell Motorsports team, both in Toronto. It's the only thing they haven't done so far this season. They're leading the championship. They've had some great podium finishes, but now back-to-back wins at Exhibition Place.
The final results, Devin Powell, Scott Maxwell, his teammate Greg Wilkins third. A very happy Devin Powell gets out of the Firebird, and John, his dad, gives him a big hug as well. Pretty happy family as a result of the round we had here at Toronto.
So the Motorola Cup Grand Sports standings after round 6, Doug Goad and Devin Powell a dead heat with 162 points. Scotty Maxwell in the hunt with 152.5.
In sport class, Mike Fitzgerald leads Mike Culver, the BMW team, atop the standings in that one. 158 points for Mike Fitzgerald.
Well, in touring class, it's Andy Linder leading Paulo Delchin and Dave Dietrich. All of these cars are Honda products.
And in compact class, it's still Mark Craig with the lead. We talked to our race winner, Devin Powell, at the end of this and asked him, was it as easy as it looks?
No, not quite. I tell you, the Powell Motorsport team, they are my Rainbow Warriors. They did a fantastic job with this Sunoco Firebird. It ran perfectly. I knew Scotty was coming. The conditions were a little difficult because you never knew what they were going to be the next time you were there. But thankfully, it was a 45-minute race, and that was just long enough, and we held off. It was a great day.
If the race was a couple minutes longer, the result may have been different, but full measure for the win today. Devin Powell takes the trophy from Doug Brownridge from Motorola. The winner overall, the Motorola Cup round here at Toronto. Beside Devin Powell up in the podium, second place Scott Maxwell, and third his teammate Greg Wilkins. Coming up next from Trois Rivieres in Quebec, it's round number 7 of the Motorola Cup. Welcome to sunny Trois Rivieres in Quebec for round number 7 of the Motorola Cup. A temporary street circuit, lots of concrete, and huge numbers of fans. Tom?
They've been coming here for years. In 1976, Gilles Villeneuve really launched his Formula One career when a driver named James Hunt noticed how great he was. In fact, he waxed James Hunt in 1976 in an Atlantic car. There's another driver named John Powell who won here in an Atlantic car in 1972.
Devin Powell's dad. Devin's remembering an old lesson. Brake management is crucial here. He and Mike Strawn look at the brakes as Devin touched one of the barriers, damaging the car. Teammate Doug Goad knows the nuances of driving a street circuit like this one.
If you're worried, I can I don't have one to stunt, so.
Well, we all make mistakes. It happens. I made one earlier in the year. As John said, we just had a little team meeting, and he told each of the drivers, okay, all of you made a bonehead move once this year. That's enough. But, yeah, I had the car out early and brought it in hot. The guys called me in. There was about 10 minutes left in the session. And when you bring the car in and it's hot like that, the brake fluid boils. And unfortunately, we didn't pump the brakes. And he found turn 1 outside wall faster than he wanted to.
But it's a brand new day here at Trois Rivieres, and the Powell Motorsport team's been working all night putting together the brand new livery for this Sunoco number 11 car. You know, all the cars in the Motorola Cup run on Sunoco 94 with ethanol. Here's Peter Lockhart.
Every teardown demonstrates just how really good this gasoline is for the motor. Obviously, these motors turn high RPM all day long. It's really hard on them, the heat and the wear factor. But, you know, we're experiencing an absolutely clean situation. The same type of situation you'd have as if you were running very expensive racing fuel. So we're elated to be able to use a pump gas, you know, with ethanol in it and have that kind of result.
The Ford Multimatic team is also experiencing a typical race weekend full of troubleshooting.
Well, we hurt the motor this morning, and we have to look forward to next week's 3-hour race at Marsport. This motor is done. We don't have a spare for today, so we had to make a decision to pull the car. Think about next week. We've only got less than a week to build this motor, as well as we heard a 5.8 this morning. We do have a spare 5.8 for the other car. So we will be backing our drivers down to Scott Maxwell and Jason Priestley running Saturday, and David Lacey and Jay Maloney running Sunday in the 2 cars instead of the 3 cars. But you've got to think long-term about your strategy and how you can keep the cars healthy for the 3-hour next week, as well as competing this week and doing well.
Well, Jason Priestley, the star of Beverly Hills 90210 perennially, off his first race win as a professional race car driver at Mid-Ohio, had a little trouble here at Trois Rivieres as well.
Now we go on board with Jason. This is during qualifying, coming down the pit straightaway. Looks to the braking zone here, puts the pedal on the floor. There's no kind of brakes, throws it into the escape road, and has a real big coming together with the tires.
Well, guys, no brakes coming out of the pits. I put it in the top.
So Jason Priestley stating what is obvious to us, the fact that he put it into the tire well. Evidently the Multimatic crew have a big job on their hands tonight.
Scott Maxwell with the same problem. Oh boy, a huge hit at the end of the pit lane straightaway as the car ran out of brakes, and Scott didn't make that escape road.
An amazing hit as Scott Maxwell feels like he's been run over by a bus. He's all right. You'd be amazed at how safe these cars really are.
The Multimatic team, though, they're pulling an all-nighter. They cannibalized bits and pieces off the 45 to get the 0 car into shape. The team is really stretched to its limits.
And what does Scotty do? Sets pole.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty stiff, but nothing that I really feel in the car, so that's a break. But I'm just going to go back to the hotel and sleep for a while and get ready for the race.
So Scott's got a day to recuperate in the hotel room, and thankfully, by the way this guy is walking, boy, what a trooper. By 1/100th of a second for race number 2, Scott Maxwell will have the pole. However, there is lots more racing to come as we get ready for race number 1 of the weekend. John Heinrichsey on the pole, and beside him, actually, there's a space there where Doug Goden. Here comes Doug Goden now. What the heck's going to Tom?
Well, the Powell Motorsport team was given some new Grand Sport calipers from GM Motorsports. Decided to put them on before the race, but found out almost too late that the darn things just wouldn't fit on the car. So that car rolls onto the grid with the old calipers without the benefit of a lot of time being spent on bleeding them. So, hey, how many times has this happened? Heinrichsey next to Gode on the grid.
So, a full range of emotions on the grid for race number 1 here at Trois Rivieres. A rather flustered Doug Goden finally gets the 11 car up to the 2nd place, and beside him, well, actually, the rest of the field a little impatient as far as they're waiting for Doug to make an appearance today. We are all set now for the start of round number 1 from Trois Rivieres. Welcome back for round number 7 from Trois Rivieres, Quebec of our Motorola Cup. We've got a great day on our hands and a great looking field.
Well, we're going to have an opportunity to get up close and personal with this circuit as these cars line up to take the green flag. Really, as we said before, a historic circuit, very busy circuit. Some people call it sort of a rhythm circuit, that if you don't have a good rhythm, you're not going to get a good lap. But really good laps by Heinrichsey and Gode as the green flag drops in the Grand Sports class, spreads out on the way down to turn number 1. Little paint trading there, Jim.
Hey, tight racing into turn number 1 as the cars for the first time make their way through the corner at speed right off the green. We've got a great battle for the lead side by side. I can't think these guys are going to get any closer than they are right now. The 2 Pontiac Firebirds, John Heinrichsey and Doug Gode. Gode falls now to 2nd place as they go through the gate for the first time.
The Arc de Duplessis is the historic landmark here at Three Rivers. It marks the tightest part of the racetrack, also the beginning of the long straightaway. We talked about it all season long. Brakes, the key here, and especially right at this place, where Heinrichsey is on the brakes, down 2 gears, and back into the rhythm section of this historic racetrack.
Boy, it looks like a very slippery racetrack as well. The conservation of the tires and the brakes going to come to the forefront before we're at the end of this contest here today, Tom. And already off the bat in qualifying and even in practice, a lot of the competitors are really having a tough time making sure that the brakes are cool enough that nothing boils, and we got people off the circuit already.
Well, the pressure at this racetrack to do well in this very tight part of their circuit is hard on everybody. As you can see, cars already running wide. We get another look at this to see exactly what happened. Oh, it's Doug Gode.
Doug Gode with a big off there, manages to put it back on the racetrack and not take anybody with him as he comes back on in a big hurry. This is going to be an interesting contest. Now, Doug Gode right up on the back bumper again of the 32 machine. John Heinrichsey, our race leader, down that start-finish line. This is going to be an interesting contest. Not only is it hard on brakes, but people with the pressure of the crowds and the stands and everything else trying to do a good job, obviously, is putting enough pressure on them that some people are making the occasional mistake out here, too.
All in all, a remarkable recovery by Doug Gode. Now, Jason Priestley into the tire wall. Jason Priestley trying to get that thing refired. As there's some movement in the cockpit, here is a replay of that incident.
Jason Priestley, the same place Doug Gode went off, slides it through the gravel, gets up in the grass, and he doesn't make it back out onto the racetrack. Gets it sideways and tags the tire wall hard. The Multimatic Motorsports team is having a terrible weekend.
Well, I'll tell you the difference there. Doug Gode, when he realized he was going off the track, hard onto the throttle, but Jason Priestley did not touch the throttle. If he did it at the very end, rode the brake all the way into the tire wall. The difference of experience.
Little squirrely under braking as we ride along with Jason Priestley. Watch how this one develops sideways through the grass and into the tire wall, and I'm afraid Jason Priestley's day is done right there.
I'll tell you what, that dog don't hunt no more. Jason Priestley relegated to the sidelines now, watching this battle. The number 32 car, the number 11 car, John Heinrichsey and Doug Gode. These two guys have been doing it for years, ladies and gentlemen. One more time through the arch.
Hey, running nose to tail, Doug Gode all over the back bumper of the Phoenix American Motorsports Firebird as they head back up the straightaway one more time. Doug Gode looks to the inside and drives by him pretty easy.
All right, that puff of smoke that you see coming out of the back of the 32 car there, probably indicative of a missed shift, and Doug Goad capitalizes on that with his momentum, and those 2 car lengths are the difference between P2 and P1.
Just a fraction of a mistake there. As far as John Heinrichs is concerned, has cost him first place. Doug Goad coming back from that big off that he seemed to survive, and this is the result.
All right, you can see it right here, a little puff of smoke. That's all it takes, just a little miscue with the shifter, and Doug Goad goes steaming right on by. But you know what? This is a long race. There's still a lot of racing action to come, and sometimes sitting back there in the catbird seat like Heinrichs is going to be doing right now is a good advantage.
Absolutely. It's entirely possible that some other strange things might happen. This racetrack is real hard on machinery and brakes in particular. We've noticed all through practice, all through qualifying, as we've got another problem out on the racetrack, as lots of other folks are jumping on the brakes and trying to slow cars down that don't look like they want to stop very much more. Some problems out on the race circuit as the braking problem seems to be rearing its ugly head once again as we approach the middle stages of our contest.
Well, we saw a teammate to Doug Goad there. That is Paul Duckworth, who got by Kohler in the number 47 car.
Oh,
and now
boy.
These cars start to bunch up. Man.
Chris Thompson gets punted from behind, and it looks as though we've got another car. It's the Zippo Ford Mustang, the 47 of John Kohler, which has gone off as well. Kohler, he's been tagged too. He ended up in the tire wall, and he got run into from behind. John Kohler trying to straighten that car around, and he gets it. Paulo Del Chin tags the Mustang. The Mustang gets involved one more time. Paulo Del Chin gets hit from behind by Chris Thompson. The hood comes up on the Mustang.
What else can go wrong here?
That's about like all that needs to happen now is John Kohler has to have a couple wheels fall off, and the left front looks as though it's next.
All right, we'll hear it from John Kohler's point of view.
Oh,
bam! Paulo Del Chin arrives and gets on by. You know, the one thing we didn't pick up on that is the number 11 car.
How can he see? Boy, this has been the story of the race. John Kohler, the mechanical problems, and we watch another replay. He tags Chris Thompson. Thompson goes down the escape road. Kohler ends up in the tire barrier, and then it gets lots of fun. As we watch this one again, we watch Kohler come steaming into the corner, can't make the turn, ends up in the tire barrier. He gets tagged by Doug Goad.
That's what I was saying before. The 11 car actually got collected up in that. I don't know how bad Doug Goad's car is damaged there. Then Paulo Del Chin comes in and finishes the job.
Oh,
so, you know, it must be what it's like to be a pinball in one of those games. Now, the front alignment is off decidedly. Obviously, the lower control arm on the left side is broken there. Way too much negative camber. And then to add insult to injury, here's a pie in the face for Kohler.
That's about it. Boy, we've got all sorts of problems. And Doug Goad, in spite of the fact the hood has popped on the Firebird, the car really hasn't been too badly damaged otherwise. It's not very pretty to look at, but it seems to be just as quick as it was before.
Peter Lockhart steaming through our frame. With all the carnage, he's managed to hang on to P3.
The race leader, Doug Goad, the hood popped on the Firebird, but the car is still rolling, which is something you can't say for a lot of other people. We'll be back. Welcome back to Trois Rivieres, round number 7 of the Motorola Cup. Our race leader, Doug Goad, just going by one more time, and underneath the Duplessis arch, Goad's pace has dropped dramatically, as has just about everybody else's. This is a race of attrition, and that's about the only other way to describe it. John Heinrichs is still giving chase in the number 32 Pontiac. The 2 Firebirds still out front. John Heinrichs, a little misshift earlier on, cost him the lead, and now he is the car that is chasing the race leader. The race leader has been driving not without incident either. He's gotten into the back corner of somebody. He slid off the road at 1.2. Doug Goad not having a trouble-free race. And there goes the second place car.
Speeding through our frame one more time, the 32 car, John Heinrichs with brake problem. Oh, and then just manages to run into the wall. I was about to say he's the only car on the track without any evident body damage, but he's fixed that now. A little breathing room now for Doug Goad as he gets by his teammate, Peter Lockhart. A hurting car, but still good enough to lead this race in the late going.
Some smoke from the back of Peter Lockhart's Sunoco Chevrolet Camaro. The Chevrolet Camaro still runs in 3rd spot, although a lap down to the race leader. Down the front straightaway one more time. Doug Goad, the hood pop, the checkered flag comes out, though, and the race win for Doug Goad. Teammate Peter Lockhart finishes 3rd, a lap down to Doug.
So the story here, mistakes and breaks all the way through this. The breaks causing a big incident down at the end of the straightaway. Carnage that included everybody. A rookie mistake by Devin Powell in qualifying. Another one by Jason Priestley in qualifying. Priestley makes another mistake during the race. It's been full of crash-em-up derby-style racing here at Trois Rivieres.
It's been a nasty one, that is for sure. The race winner, though, Doug Goad. Second place goes to John Heinrichsen, the number 32 car, still having a tough time trying to drive around the last couple laps here without any brakes, or certainly less brakes than he had at the start.
One more look at what happened to John Heinrichsen. In touch with Doug Goad in the number 11 car. Goad gets around the corner rather easily, but Heinrichsen, well, you can see him right there, just goes steaming right through the frame. Tries to spin the car, not enough momentum, thinks about that for a minute, says, well, here's another way I can stop. I'll just plant that in the wall. Reverses, gets back out on the track, P2.
The results of race number 1, Doug Goad is our race winner, John Heinrichsen is second, Peter Lockhart third, John Shirkin, the Acura, finishes in fourth, and fifth place goes to Jay Maloney.
The winning pair here, the Powell Motorsports crew, is celebrating as this man, Devin Powell, will climb in this very same number 11 automobile and try another race tomorrow. Meanwhile, Powell Motorsports crew has bodywork.
Just a little bit. Our StarTech Star of the Race Award goes to our race winner, Doug Goad. The only bodywork damage that car has to have repaired is due to being backed into by a Ford Mustang.
And that doesn't happen every day.
That's for sure. We talked to Doug after his win. Was it without incident? What happened to the hood?
Well, right there at the end, the 47 car went and redistributed one of the other cars at the back of the long straight, which would have been fine for me, except that he forgot to turn left. He went straight into the wall, bounced straight in front of me, and there was nothing I could do. We were lucky that I hit him in a corner, glanced off. I just kept driving, and pieces were flying off the car, but we finished. Once another Sunoco Powell Motorsports car came through, it's a good job.
The StarTech, the new V-series of phones, makes for a great stocking stuffer for Christmas. Here's Motorola's Doug Bromley.
V-series phone features a phone book that can contain up to 99 names and numbers. It's also got its own answering machine, and it's got a silent vibracall alert that can be set to ring or to vibrate when an incoming call comes.
Some real happy folks up on the podium here at Trois Rivieres, and this is only the first of a two-race weekend. We'll be back with round 2. Welcome back for the second half of our race weekend here in Trois Rivieres, Quebec. It's a gorgeous sunny day, and we've got a huge crowd on hand, and some new faces too, as John Heinrichsen does a little coaching.
Kind of a celebrity driver out of Trans Am. They call him the Big Kazaka from Minnetonka, Minnesota. This is Leighton Reese. He had some specific instructions from Joe Aquilante.
Well, we're helping John Heinrichsen out in a ferocious points battle here. And the strategy is a little complicated. I don't understand it completely. I'm going to go out there and see if we can take some points away from rivals.
And as we saw earlier, a big crash in practice for Scott Maxwell. He got back into another car and put it on the pole. The 0 car will start from spot number 1 today.
Well, starting right next to him, the number 11 car, which did so well yesterday under the handling of Doug Goad. That is now Devin Powell in that car.
Leighton Reese is going to start in the 32 car, which finished second yesterday. At the wheel, John Heinrichsen. However, Leighton has been hired to see how many points he can steal away from Devin Powell and Scott Maxwell in this contest.
The 89 car next to him is Jocelyn Hébert, another hometown guy. Looking forward to a good result. Paul Duckworth and Bob Meyer fill out the top 6 in the grid behind them. Touching early in the going.
Little bumping and weaving coming down the start-finish line as the green flag flies. Scotty Maxwell and Devin Powell touch each other. Into turn number 1, Scott drives to the inside. Devin Powell, though, with a head of steam, takes over first spot.
This is the view of turn number 1 from Leighton Reese's car. He doesn't understand exactly what he's doing here, but he understands where the loud pedal is, and he's doing his best to catch up and buy Scotty Maxwell.
Scott Maxwell drives to the inside in corner number 1, steals away and secures a second place in corner number 2. Underneath the Duplessis arch for the first time at speed. Over the shoulder of Scott Maxwell, who runs in second place in the 5.8-liter Ford Mustang. The car going down that back straightaway in behind the yellow Sunoco Firebird of our race leader, Devin Powell. As we watch a car fall off the end of the back straightaway on lap number 1. Lots of action here already.
That's Bob Meyer in the number 88 car. He just went steaming down there. Looks like he didn't really have any opportunity to make that left-hand turn. You know, there's a lot of questions to be answered here. Is Devin Powell's car in good shape after that shunt that involved Doug Goad last time? Looks like his hood is coming a little bit. Now, Scotty Maxwell's car, that's not in great shape either. And the big question, Jim Martin, is in Scotty Maxwell. What kind of shape is he in?
If it was anybody else, they would still be in the hotel room trying to sleep that one off, because Scott Maxwell is the sorest race driver I've ever seen. A great battle here for third place. Leighton Reese trying to hold on Jocelyn Hebert in that 89 Chevrolet Camaro. Maybe a little bit of contact into turn number 1 as they've got a pitch battle going on now.
Now Jocelyn Hebert, oh, he goes through around the outside. Now, here's what happened. Leighton Reese, a Trans Am driver, would normally grab second gear going down into turn 1. He did that, played off all his momentum. Jocelyn Hebert goes steaming right on by.
So Jocelyn Hebert has stolen away third spot as we watch the race leader go back up the straightaway one more time. Devin Powell has this one pretty much well in hand. Scott Maxwell, again, with maybe not a great race car, he's certainly not in the best of shape physically. And we've got another incident out on the racetrack as Dave Dietrich and Mark Craig have a little coming together. The sport class Honda Prelude and the compact class Hyundai Tiburon have a little coming together out there.
Well, back up front now with Devin Powell. As you said before, he seems to be able to drive away a little from Scotty Maxwell, and the pair of them are driving away from the number 32 car of Leighton Reese. Now, just ahead of him is the 89 car of Jocelyn Hebert, followed by 7. That's David Lacey. 79 is DeFontes, 28 Neville, and 39 is the man we know only as Royale.
There's still lots of racing to go, and we've got some real close quarters racing going on. We'll be back with more from the Motorola Cup round at Trois Rivieres in just a moment.
Welcome back to Trois Rivieres for the Motorola Cup round. This is North America's Street Stock Championship as we go under the Arc du Plessis. One more time, a big train of grand sports car. The 79 car is DeFontes, then 32 of Reese, 39 of Real, and 28 of Neville. Big long train.
Hey, there's a great big freight train going down that back straightaway. Probably the best battle are two teammates. Leighton Reese, who's supposed to be, well, helping out his friend John Heinrichs in this points chase, and Real, who may not have heard those team orders, who is really harassing him from behind there.
Well, one thing you can count on Joe Aquilante to do is bring a lot of cars to the track. Real, well, he's a rental driver. John Heinrichs needs some help in the points, so Joe Aquilante came up with a strategy for Leighton Reese that's so complicated, Reese doesn't even understand it. But the man up front, the number 11 car of Devin Powell. You know, this team has come so far in a relatively short season so far. Where they started with a brand new engine at Daytona. They had their problems, but they managed to score a podium finish all the way along. In Toronto, big breakthrough. They got their first pair of wins with Doug Goad and Devin Powell responding. Now, these guys really look untouchable.
Absolutely. They're firmly in command of this one. As we watch that little battle going on once again, Real just behind Leighton Reese as Mike DeFontes in the 79 car goes around one of the back markers, one of the compact class Mazda Miatas, underneath the bridge one more time. Here comes Real up beside Leighton Reese and steals away the spot. That's got to be a tough place to pass. It's the narrowest piece of the racetrack.
Well, I don't think Reese was really expecting that, especially from his teammate, but it looks like Real carries a little bit more momentum down that straightaway. Reese happy to sit back there and wonder what's going on. You know, it's got to be a big transition to go from a Trans Am car into a Pontiac Trans Am, which is essentially a showroom stock car. So Leighton Reese coming to terms with that car, probably having the time of his life.
Hey, Leighton Reese is having a lot of fun, but as far as that team order thing, well, that might be a different story altogether. Whether Joe Aquilante's having fun watching this race may be a different story. Real, though, out in front of his teammate in the 32 car, the 39 machine just out front, sponsored by UFO Land from Valcourt, Quebec. And we watch him as, well, Real's driving the wheels off that car. And the way we've seen this racetrack eat up the brakes on the bigger machinery, I wonder how long he's going to be able to keep up that pace.
Well, Real, the head of the Raelian church, which is all based upon alien abduction. Well, we don't want to get too far into that. This is the number 89 car. This is Jocelyn Hebert doing a great job in front of his home crowd here at Trois Rivieres.
Jocelyn Hebert putting on a good show, as is the other yellow car in this field, the yellow number 11 Sunoco-sponsored Pontiac Firebird of Devin Powell. who is still managing to stay out in front of Scott Maxwell. Scott's been in touch with him through the entire contest, and it now looks as though the zero car of Scotty Maxwell may be starting to eat into that lead just a little bit.
Remember, both of these cars took a fairly significant lick earlier in the weekend. As we go to some back markers here, we're going to see this. Oh, this is David Dietrich, I believe, running down the escape road. Remember, he was the one who came into a clash with the number 6 Hyundai Tiburon of Mark Craig.
A great piece of decision making. You know, am I going to try to make this corner, maybe not make it, or will I take the escape road? Dave Dietrich goes for the latter, and it looks like a good decision on his part.
The moment of truth, as drivers, I'll call it. Can I make the corner or take the safe way out? Now, this man, Paul Duckworth, a lap down, his car is smoking. Remember, he made that same decision in Toronto. May not have been the right one. Now, the Powell Motorsports entry, car number 11 of Devon Powell, crosses the start-finish line. One more time, you can see the hood is slightly up there. Now, those of you who are used to seeing cabs in the summer, that's not the whole deal here. That car had a pretty bad nosebleed, and that's the best the Powell Motorsports crew could do to bring that one back. Meanwhile, he's working traffic, looking in his mirrors occasionally to see Scott Maxwell. Remember this one from before?
Absolutely. This looks real familiar. Devon Powell, though, hanging on to first place. All of the teams really doing a tremendous job here, especially when you consider the kind of carnage that these cars have gone through. The wheel-to-wheel team doing a great job with Devon Powell's car. Now, the hood isn't 100%, but it's a lot better than it looked the other day. Scotty Maxwell, the Multimatic Motorsports team, had just had a nightmare of a weekend. And for Scott Maxwell, let alone that car, to finish this race is certainly a testament to everybody involved with that squad.
He is definitely one sore puppy. Now, the battle between Rayal and Leighton Reese has swapped positions again. The 32 car now ahead of the slightly weird driver of the 39 car. Now, we mean that in all good faith, and Rayal is a lot of fun to have on a racetrack. So these two guys in Joe Aqualante's Phoenix American Motorsports team having the time of their lives.
Hey, this has turned out to be the best race of the entire contest, and here comes Rayal up the inside, looks to the inside anyway, decides better of it. Rayal and Leighton Reese going side by side as we've got a car off in that corner. It's the lime green neon of Guy Lahaye.
He tried to go down the escape road, really didn't make that decision all that well. Escape road track, escape road track. In the middle of that is a tire wall. That's what he hit. You know, you tend to hit what you're looking at. No doubt in my mind that Guy Lahaye had his eyes on those tires.
And the reason I think that Rayal decided better of trying to make the pass there is because of the waved yellow for Guy Lahaye's neon. Nonetheless, the race leader down the straightaway one more time. It hasn't been a perfect weekend for any of these teams, but as far as making the best of what might have been a little less than 100% situation is Devon Powell in the 11 Pontiac Firebird, who seems to have run just a conservative enough race to make sure that he's got a good race car underneath him when the checkered flag rolls around and we're getting close.
Well, we checked in with the patriarch of the Powell Motorsports team, John Powell. And of course, we mentioned earlier in the show that he actually won a race back here in 1972 in his Atlantic car. We talked to him about it, and he said, first of all, survival. This race is always about breaks and mistakes, and it came true. I mean, everybody here has made at least one boner, and a couple of them have made more than one boner. It's always been about attrition here, especially with showroom stock cars. His son, Devon Powell, who has entered professional racing in a big way, teamed up with Doug Goad, the wheel-to-wheel racing crew, combined forces with the Powell Motorsports team. They had a bit of a slow start, but always finishing on the podium. This is the team to beat now in the 1998 version of North America's Street Stock Championship, the Motorola Cup.
They didn't get off to a great start, but they had a whole bunch of podium finishes, and now they found the winner's circle, and it looks as though it may play into their hands once again today, but we still have a couple laps to go, so we'll just see what happens. There's lots of racing out here at Trois Rivieres, and this racetrack has a tendency to reach out and bite you.
This is the battle for position number 5, the number 94 car, today driven by Paul Duckworth. Yesterday finished third at the hands of Peter Lockhart. This is John Shirk's regular ride, the number 28 Acura NSX. This all-aluminum car makes a great race car. Mike Neville running out of the Ottawa area in Canada. Now, this is kind of an interesting dichotomy. You've got your big American muscle car against your Japanese, more finesse racer. Duckworth and Neville going hammer and tongs for position number 5.
Great battle out on the racetrack as we approach the final couple of turns as we watch our race leader one more time come back toward the start-finish line. Scott Maxwell sliding the Mustang around now, seeing if there is any way he can make up that last few feet to really make a race out of it, but he's going to run out of time.
In the meantime, the poise of the young Devon Powell. Just amazing. This 21-year-old kid is racing like a man 20 years his senior. The poise, the confidence that this kid has brought to Motorola Cup racing this year has been really impressive.
Now, as the teams breathe a sigh of relief, they've made it through race number 2 at Trois Rivieres. Devin Powell, the race winner. Scott Maxwell, a great second place. Jocelyn Abair, third. And here comes a race winner once again. Devin Powell, the number 11 Pontiac Firebird, in along pit lane to another bunch of smiling faces, including his father, John.
Well, John Powell standing by looking at this whole thing along with Doug Goad. Doug Goad and Devin Powell, the co-leaders of the Motorola Cup after round 7 in the Grand Sports category.
In sports, Mike Fitzgerald with 158 points, a commanding lead after this round.
Well, what a great weekend for Paulo Del Chin, who manages to pull on the lead in the standings in touring class for Linda and Dietrich.
And in compact, it's Mark Craig with 172 points in his Hyundai Tiburon. We talked to our race winner after he got out of the car.
It was tough. I don't know. Knew Scotty would always be there. These guys, I tell you, the whole Powell Motorsport team did a fantastic job with this Pontiac Firebird. It's a little ugly today, but it ran superb. You know, I can't thank Sunoco and Wheel to Wheel enough for their assistance. All the guys with the flatbed truck, even the guys off Terry McDonald's team, they came down and helped. It was just fantastic.
Today's telecast brought to you by Motorola. Take off and take your world along for the ride.
And by Dunlop. Handle it with Dunlop tires.
And by STP Products. The edge in high performance. Get your car into STP shape.
An absolutely gorgeous day here at the Grand Prix de Players at Trois Rivieres. Great podium scene. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this.
Here we are at Trois Rivieres in Quebec to round out some of the hardware we have to give out at the end of every weekend. The Speed Stick Fastest Lap of the Race Award goes to none other than our race winner. Devin Powell, who put on quite a show all weekend long, was also our fastest driver, too.
Devin Powell did a fabulous job in a car we suspected may be hurting after a little shunt with Doug Goad running into the back of a Mustang that was going the opposite direction.
The Castrol Most Laps Led Award. Once again, a Devin Powell thing comes to the top of the list. A great show.
A flag-to-flag job for Devin Powell. He led the most laps in this one. In fact, he's leading our Castrol Most Laps Led standings. When you take a look at that, Powell ahead of Heinrichs, Goad, and Hayner.
Scotty Maxwell bringing up in that 5th position there. Good battle between John Heinrichs and Doug Goad. Only 2 laps separate those two. Now, the Derringer Most Positions Gained Award. And this is a cumulative award. And Jerry McDonald Cadew's name comes to the top of the list in this one. Jerry McDonald has gained the most positions so far after 7 rounds of the Motorola Cup Street Stock Championship.
Oh, she's having a great season. She leads Terry Burchiller, who hasn't been around lately in his BMW M3, David Lacey, and Richard Spinard, just ahead of John Shirk. The hero today was Devin Powell, car number 11. This wheel-to-wheel racing, Powell Motorsports combination. His co-driver, Doug Goad. What a great weekend for both these gentlemen.
A tremendous show by the entire team, and lots of the other teams have a lot of work to do between now and the time we see again. I'm Jim Martin for Tom Natcher. Thanks for joining.